Well, hello everybody. How are you doing? I was just jamming out to that case was a little Barry McGuire, man. I mean, prophetic song, I guess. Uh wow, the lyrics are just amazing. BOSTO everyone, favor be unto us all, speaking nothing missing, nothing broken in our lives. And I mean that. So many are needing in healing right now, just so many people. And um listen, I recommend this, and this is ancient. Lay hands on yourself. If you need to, anoint yourself with oil. Get, you know, whatever special type of oil, and anoint yourself and lay hands upon yourself and speak to your body. Get in covenant with your body and speak health and healing to your body. I was in meditation and I got the distinct impression a lot of you are suffering from inflammation. And inflammation is it attacks every part of the body, and it's it can get your autoimmune system to begin to go into overdrive. And the other thing, I say this all the time, if you're not getting at least 7 hours, ideally 8, 9 hours of sleep, your sleep cycles are off. And the problem becomes, and I know this, see, this goes back into the days when I was in the film and video industry. I was a producer and worked with a guy by the name of Paul Polycarpo. Still remember that, in Nashville, Tennessee. And we had a client. There were two ladies. They were on Oprah. They were everywhere. And they had a book and a video called Eat, Sleep, and Be Sexy. And the reason why most people age prematurely, besides getting out in the sun damage, is because they do not have proper sleep in their lives. And if your body cannot regenerate itself, heal itself, sleep, and if you can't get rid of the melatonin that's in your brain along with the other chemicals that can only be dispersed when you sleep. And if you're not sleeping, you're going to have health issues. You become very susceptible to the spirit realm as well. They can see your energy. They can see that your energy is low. They can see that your energy is out of balance. And you don't want that to be taken care of. Brian, you're under mind control. And listen, brother, I'm not saying Brian 1958, love you. It's just that news. I'm going to continue to teach you what mind control is, but and that's why you have to cut it out. I mean, just stop it. If you got to wean yourself, then find you something online that can just give you the brief headlines of if that's what you need to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you get into the news program, they're designed to, it's what you're not hearing are the command words. It's designed to elevate your blood pressure. It's designed to elevate certain chemicals in your brain, and these cause division. That's what it's done. The more they can divide us, then the more they know we'll never unite. And unfortunately, sapiens are so divided now. So anyway, healing to everyone, BOSTO. It is the answer to the modern day problems today. And if it's not the whole answer, it's certainly the key that unlocks the door to those answers. To be of service to others. Someone asked, well, what does favor mean? Favor means that you are highly prized. You're elevated. You are welcomed. Your presence is something that is treasured. Favor elevates you. Favor means that there is no harm going to come to you from me. That's what favor means. I speak favor over all of us. It means nothing missing, nothing broken. That word also can be spoken as shalom. Nothing missing, nothing broken. Be in our lives. But you got to believe it in order to make it happen. But Brian, anyway, yeah, brother, I understand that. I understand that. Hey, Kent Cook, Susie Q, Bree, how are you doing? Amy, hello. Eileen, good to see you. Kent, let's see, Lost in Space, how are you doing? I spoke with Big Al today. Always a pleasure to speak with him and Perry, those two. Hello, Sarah Horton, how are you? Good to see you, my dear. Yes, the tribe is meeting. So take it for what it is worth. But I'm telling you, if you will get sleep, true story. I had a friend and, well, she had to get herself out of some things. Her life was just deteriorating. And I learned this lesson back when I was truly a hippie. I've always been a free spirit, and I had the opportunity to express it. I think that's why I came in, amongst other things. But anyway, I learned something. She had a personality that she lit up the room, but she got into some things and it got to be very dark for her. And when she finally made the choice, she slept for 2 days. And I'll never forget what she said when she awoke. She says, "I'm alive again." She slept literally for 2 days. I think she may have gotten up a couple of times. But it taught me something. And that's why the spirit drugs like methamphetamine, those type of spirit drugs are so dangerous. They come with crystalline entities, and they're designed to deprive you of that necessary regeneration. Think about it. Amy, that is correct. Yeah, and in fact, that is medically been proven, particularly industrialized nations, but in the United States population is suffering from sleep deprivation, and it's all over the world. But yeah, and you see the effects of it. You really do. Back in my days in the internet, 1998, 97, 99, when we were inventing the internet. You see that yellow poster right there? That poster was printed in 1999, and it is the e-commerce manifesto. It's where Amazon, it's where they all learned. We all learned in the same conference. My point to all that is, that was one of the most sleepless periods of my life. I mean, we had this thing that if you weren't living internet time, then you were dead. The problem is that if you lived that life, you would be dead. And, you know, favor was upon my life then as it is now. And yeah, you can get really sick, folks. You really can. Anyway, so we shall move on. Fairies. Love it, love it, love it. By the way, let me get 1 second here. Okay. Give me 1 second. As you can see, I'm driving the bus and I'm checking what the fluid levels are. You know what I mean? And so we're all good. Hey, if you ever want to know like what's happening in the world like now, here is a very cool site. This is, I call it the RSO site, but it's actually, you can see it up there, is the HISZ.RSOE alert map. This map will tell you anything that's happening in the world. whether it be biological, whether it be chemical, whether it be natural, whatever. So if you don't have it, it's fun to keep in your browser. Anyway, thought I'd just share that with you because we all like to be in the know. I like to be in the know. Do y'all like to be in the know? Okay. Something else before we get into this, I put together a little presentation. Brian was going to join us, Lunsford, but he was feeling a little under the weather. And so again, we speak healing out there. Fairies. This is going to be fun. I got some documents, some books that y'all are just going to like. Let me address this right now. And I thank Ben Davidson over at Suspicious Observers. Folks, the galactic wave is here. The galactic sheet, whatever you want to call it. It's here. And these are 3 visual examples of this. Go over on Ben's website under the disaster series. You'll see exactly what he's talking about. He'll explain it much more. But for those of you who follow Ben like I do, I enjoy his daily podcast. And Ben's a great guy. I've met him and just really, he's a cool dude. Anyway, I think we're going to be feeling more and more of this. I don't know what this is, but it apparently passes through here, and evidence says that this is what causes our sun to go nova. And all we know is that every star that this sheet, and we can see it, it's been coming our way for quite a while, every one of them nova, every one of them. And ours is much bigger than theirs, those. So these are 3 examples. It's coming, folks. Just my opinion, I think it's going to have a disastrous effect upon particularly higher intelligent beings, Homo sapiens to be exact. So fairies, do they exist? You see, I think we're in this spell, this mind control that says that humans are the only things that really count on Earth. We somehow think that we're the top of the heap. You know, as I used to say back in my day, we think that our feces doesn't stink. Well, it does. These beings, they don't contaminate the Earth. Humans do, but they exist. True story. I have shared this story before, but it's well worth it. I have seen these creatures myself. In 72, I hitchhiked across the United States, went out to California, had a friend that hitchhiked with me out there. And we met some people, and we were camping outside of Eureka, and the redwood forest are literally just a couple of miles inland. The ancient redwood forest. Now, this was back in 72, so, you know, it's much different back then. Anyway, I met this gal, this chick that, well, she was really hot. What can I say? And she took us into the forest and said that she was going to show us what she called the light people, the little people. That's what she said. And it was amazing. They're there. I didn't feel any harm, I can tell you. It was a very magical experience, and it was an experience. So there have been captures of, Brian has captured many of them. In fact, he has a picture that on Friday I'm going to ask him to show. Yeah. You know, hard to say what these creatures really are. They seem to be sentient. They seem to be aware. They seem to be intelligent. They also seem to be more powerful than we are. I think that they are, in fact, maybe the original inhabitants. It's hard to say, but, you know, we're going to see lore, mythology, fables, all have fairies. Peter Pan, Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell was a fairy. There are many, even the modern day cartoons. What is the one? Oh, I'm trying to think of it. Timmy and Fairy Godparents. I mean, that whole cartoon series, written by adults, by the way. So don't think that it's childish to watch cartoons. The greatest wizards I've known and witches and magicians are the ones who do children's cartoons. Bet you never thought about that, did you? Why? They're the powerful magicians because they are influencing the younger minds to create. And so when you see such things as fairy godparents, that is in fact incorporating old folklore into a modern genre for a modern generation. And they're evidence that they're everywhere, as you can see, all over the world. It kind of amazes me that, you know, how diverse is this species? And they can show themselves when they want. And many times they are there, but you'll never see them. Why? Because our minds are easily confused and manipulated. But there have been people all over England, Russia, China, India, Australia, South America, Mexico, all show these. And I'm sure Brian, we'll get him on here because we're going to find out that apparently, even if you don't think that you live in the woods or any other where you can actually build in places for these remarkable beings. This is probably one of the more famous ones over the world, the internet. This creature here clearly, well, I don't know if you want to call it bipedal. I don't know if you want to call it a hominid. I don't know. But yeah. And you know, people have their detractors. But I contend Lord of the Rings was more true than what most humans think. They are here in Colorado. They're in North Carolina. I'm going to show you, right? But there has even been police evidence. Mummified. In Mexico. Creatures. This one was found in a hawk's nest, I believe. They're calling it a pixie, by someone that was in North Carolina. And apparently it has been bone tested. We see them in pictographs. We see them in fossilized remains. This one's big. This is supposedly an angel. The hole in its head was by design, but this is apparently where we get our modern day legends in the Bible, the Quran, the rest of those books about angels. This is actually where we get are pictures of Lucifer, Satan, etc. Now, you can build homes for these beings, and they will, in fact, move in. The legend is that if they find favor and you show them favor by bringing out offerings, food, making them literally dwelling, that they will be thankful and bring you gold. Yeah. So anyway, who knows, right? I don't know. Let me get that. Yes, of course, say that. Just some things to get the idea of what we're dealing with. Now, I'm sure many of you probably have experience with, I call them the little people. They're probably the true human beings. I don't know. My North American friends would probably grin at that, but you know, some say that they're mischievous. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, if they are sentient, they would then probably most likely possess emotions. And if they possess emotions, then why wouldn't you have pranksters? You know, I know more than one of us were the class clowns. Why wouldn't they have clowns? All right, so I got some books here that I think you're going to like. Went digging into my treasure trove. And so this book here is about the person who wrote this. This is the Fairy Census of 2014 to 2017. This professor, she sent out inquiries. And I will read this. What is the Fairy Census? Some 500 fairy experiences follow in these pages, and over 160,000 words about encounters with the impossible. These were, in the vast majority of cases, taken from the fairy census, and then there is actually the survey that you can go still online and take. An ongoing internet questionnaire about who sees fairies, when and why. The questionnaire has been reproduced in an appendix in this book. The present volume is being published in association with the publisher. What information is recorded? She says, I took the purposes of the present publication, only the most important parts of the data for each fairy experience. Here is an invite example with key. This is Argentina, Patagonia. Interesting, Patagonia, because Patagonia is where it's rumored the giants still live. This case is a male, 2010. On a country road with several other people, none of whom shared my experience. 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., less than a minute, about 2 seconds. I think that's erotic. Never or almost never has been supernatural experiments. No special state reported. And so she goes in with these. So she goes through here. You can see there is a very detailed process that she has developed here in documenting the fact that all over the world there are fairies. She goes on to say the location of the experience in many cases is on or near water, in woodlands, in open land, fields, etc., on country roads, in the city, inside a public building, a church, school, inside a private house, in a garden. And she writes on, I can't remember others. Company, on my own with one other person who shared the experience with the others who did not share the experience. And so we can go through here. If you want it, get it. I mean, if you're really into it, I think you'll be impressed with the methodology that has been incorporated in this study. And I think that you're going to find out that they do exist. Now, there is something else. By the way, you can get this on academic.edu. Excellent resource for getting white papers, papers written by, PhD. You have those that are seeking their doctorate. It's a great website full of knowledge. The other one is, there is a book on fairy magic. Yes, there is fairy magic, and we're going to just read a little bit out this because I think this is fun. If you don't have the book, you should get it. Ask me, I'll send it to you. The fairies are the sacred spirit or presence that animates and enlivens all of nature. Their knowledge, wisdom, and supernatural powers can be called upon when doing magic. Fairies create a field of resonance or vibration just beyond the spectrum of our ordinary awareness. They are one step away from our reality, normally just out of our range of perception. The fairy realm mirrors the mortal realm. Fairyland is the home of our emotive primordial links with our origins, the home of universal wisdom and truth. To fully comprehend the concept of fairyland, the other world of the fairy, you need to view reality as layered, realm upon realm, rather than linear. In this sense, fairyland is everywhere within and around you. It is ever present. Celebrated throughout history in several forms, fairies are among the most well-known magical beings of all time. With the advent of the New Age, fairies have become even more popular and noteworthy. There are scores of fairy books, movies, cartoons, television programs, and fairy music. There are fairy mouse pads for computers, fairy e-cards, fairy screensavers. Fairy art can be seen on posters, prints, wall calendars, magnets, and Yule tree ornaments. They appear on coffee mugs, jewelry, and even wedding cakes toppers. You can purchase fairy garden figurines, fairy musical water fountains, fairy garden balls, switch cover plates with fairy designs, as well as fairy toys, games, dolls, puppets, cookbooks, and chess sets. There are silk ties, silky bath salts, pixie dust, and fairy apparel for children with flower fairies and whimsical frogs and butterfly fairies. When you step back from this, you've got to say, seems to be everywhere in our culture. And we wonder why our children believe in fairies and why fairies are so often associated with children. Yet adults have the hardest time to accept that which they were once taught to be real as nothing more than a dream, a fairy tale. Oh, come on, that was clever. Y'all have to really admit. All right. Rather than being a primer on the fairy tradition itself, this book is more a hands-on guide how to see, attract, and communicate with the helpful fairies themselves. Working with the fairies is a creative and productive way of balancing a world precariously out of balance by caring and communing with nature's spirits. For the purpose of this book, I use the term fairy as it is the traditional name of the bright people. And they are. I do not use terms such as little people, as most of the fairies I have encountered are not small or tiny, but human size or larger. I must be, see, I can be corrected. Human size or larger. Now, that's a new thought. I'll never call them little people again. You know, I can ask for forgiveness. Ignorance does allow one to have that part. It says you can befriend fairies even if you cannot see them. They are one with all plant life, as each and every living plant has a fairy or fae within it. By communicating with your plants, you are communicating with the fae. The fairies will tell you what the plants need and what the plants can be used for. Your intentions, expectations, desires, and depth of your merge with the helpful fairy energies will determine the depth of your communication. If you respectfully ask the fairies, they will be overjoyed to co-create and play with you, as is so magnificently exemplified in famous fairy gardens of Findhorn and Pearladendra. Whether you live in the forest, suburbs, or the inner city, the fairies will greet and help you. The reason children hear and see the fairies more often than adults may be that they are more open-minded, pure of heart, honest, and steadfast of will. You know you have fairy sight when you feel as if someone is watching you, but no one can be seen. Or you may feel as though butterflies or bird wings fluttered next to you without touching you. Now, I know I've experienced that. Probably a lot of hands raising on that one. They're everywhere. You may suddenly smell a heady flower fragrance, sea plants and trees glowing and shimmering with a fine light, or hear hushed giggling or soft laughter, because the fairies are always near us and usually listen and watch us without being seen. It is always wise to speak well of them. For the purpose of this book, I recommend that you plant a fairy magic garden in spring during the months of May. If you plant the following flowers and herbs, you will have most of the fresh ingredients you will need to do the spells in this book: basil, chamomile, daisies, hollyhocks, honeysuckle, jasmine. I don't know about the honeysuckle. I'll have to, as a kid, I worked hard cleaning out 5 acres of honeysuckle. But anyway, jasmine, lavender, marigolds, mint, nettle. I got plenty of that. Pansies, red verbena, rosemary, sage, strawberries, thyme, vervain, white, yellow, and red roses. That can be done. That's cool. All right. When working with the fairies, it's important to remember that all things are one, whatever they might be. Everything, including fairies and mortals, is made of the same stellar stuff from starseed. Your physical body is halfway between the mortal and the fairy worlds, somewhere between instinct and spirit. Parts of you exist within the very body of the planet, in the trees, the plants, and the flowers. To be a complete being, you need to integrate your mortal and fairy aspects. Working the spells in this book will bring you closer to that realization. Oh, this is far out. Let's read it. Fairy history, mythology, and folklore. When the first baby laughed for the very first time, the laugh broke into 1,000 pieces, fractals, and they all went skipping about, and that was the beginning of fairies. Sir James N. Barrie, Peter Pan. Journey, the enchanting voice. From outside my window in early morning hour, I hear a voice that calls out in a beautiful, melodious voice. I slowly rise from my soft, warm bed and step towards the window. As I do, I step beyond the bounds of my physical reality. I step beyond myself, stretching my awareness into another realm and reaching out to my full potential. As my mind moves from a light sleep to full consciousness, I am suddenly aware of the enchanting quality of the voice I hear. I stare out the window for a few minutes, mesmerized by its cadence, before getting on my clothes and going out to explore the origins of the enchanting voice. As I walked outside, the crisp morning air caresses my face and my skin tingles. I walk down a gravel driveway that winds towards the general direction of an inviting voice. As I walk, the voice seems to envelop and surround me, making it difficult to determine where it's coming from. The dawning light of the sun is just becoming visible, and the pine and the oak tree looms like giant shadows all around me. Rather than feeling menacing, they seem like giant protectors, standing guard along the way. Upon reaching the end of the gravel driveway, I see the dark outline of a small patch that leads downward into the vegetation that grows quite thickly together, making traveling impossible except on an already traversed pathways. As I move down the path, I am greeted by the musty smell of the forest floor. I take a deep breath. Yeah, I can smell that. And as I exhale, I become increasingly aware that the enchanting voice is louder and calls me ever closer, like a beacon of another world. Further down the pathway, I smell water. I hear the trickling of the creek. The sound of the water seems to provide background accompaniment to the enchanting voice. Although there is a path, I still have to make my way through the dense undergrowth that grows under the thick canopy of trees. As I continue through the underwork, I can sense nature all around me in her inherent splendor and divinity. The further I walk, the more I become one with the natural beauty around me. I pause to say a short prayer of thanks to the sacred land. As I walk on, the voice is clear and closer. Finally, I reach a shallow creek with a small waterfall that flows over white blocks of milky quartz crystal. I stop to rest and to get my bearings. In the still, shadowy world of the early morning, I see a small greenish blue creature stir within the waterfall. At first, I think I'm seeing things, but continuing to watch, I instinctively know that what I am seeing is nature fairy, a particular, a water sprite. For the flicker of an instant, time seems irrelevant and out of focus, and the moment becomes an hour. Looking into the eyes and listening to the enchanting voice of the water fairy, I realize that the fairy is the underlying spirit of nature. In all its many aspects, the fairy element is everything, is that which gives spiritual life and beauty. Sitting next to the waterfall, I look into the fairy's eyes and I see my reflection. I see my ideal self. I see my beautiful and compassionate self. I also glimpse past and future lifetimes, flowing from the same spiritual well. The world I enter seems familiar, but there is something very different. Like looking in a mirror, I feel I am seeing everything reversed. My perception and awareness seems altered. As I stand hearing the enchanting voice in all its splendor with nature, the greenish blue fairy eyes meet mine, and I can suddenly imagine living my life to its fullest potential. I imagine miraculous things like world peace, cures for all disease and all illnesses, and a kinder, gentler world where life seems more fluid and exciting, and people are more tolerant. I feel a powerful, easy energy washing over my body, like the waterfall. This feeling empowers me, and I feel at one with myself, with the watery fairy, and with the world around me. In my life, the enchanting voice represents a calling that leads me back home, like a salmon moving back up the stream to spawn. I feel propelled to seek out my roots. I get a feeling for who I really am. While growing closer to the land around me, I realize my roots have something to do with the energy of the Fae, who traditionally were the animate symbols of nature and spirit. As our energies connect, I am aware of the completion of a circle that is as ancient as recorded time. Now the enchanting voice resonates within my being, and we become one. Wow. Okay. I'll let those who are so inclined to get the book. I'll send it to you. It is a book of spells, and I guess I could show some of the spells, huh? All right. Might be something to show you what else is included, because we got another book here I think is going to really help you as well. So let me get myself pulled back into here. So you can go on and read. I love that, by the way. I don't know about you, but I was there. Something about when you read some of these books, they take you there. By the way, this goes back millennia ago, 6,000 plus years ago. Well, excuse me, 8,000. 8,000. But as you can see, she covers every aspect of culture through the pantheon of time. And when we get into, and I'm just trying to pull up some of these. So here it is. I mean, she tells you who they are, that you can begin to become familiar with them. The Clem is a mischievous goblin that resides in chimneys and peeks out at children, scolding them when they are bad. Now, if you don't have a chimney, well, I don't know, but you have to take it in dread. I mean, in stride. I'm sure that when the computer, there are fairies. But anyway, it is a great book, folks. Fairy offering. Because the fairy energy originated in the spirits of the old agricultural goddess and gods of the earth, they control the ripening of the crops and the milk yields, and thus offerings were given to the fairies at regular intervals. This includes sabbats, espats, and fairy times. The fairies represent natural powers that can either make your life flow or make your life a total struggle. Giving offerings to the fairy is a way of helping the energy in your life flow and come together. Hello, Jesse Colin Young and the Youngbloods. So anyway, check it out. It's a good book. It really is. Now, I have another book here because I got asked on this, and I thought that I would present this. Blood cults. Weird things. That's weird. Like I'm looking at another thing going, well, how did that happen? This one here is breaking the blood curse over your life. It gets into how to start banishing that. Listen, you came out of Christianity like I do. You need this. You really do, because face it, I participated in a consuming of blood and eating of flesh on a regular basis. We called it communion. But call it what you want, it's still a blood ritual. I was being kind. Thank you. It's a very short book. It's not long, but it gives you an idea how you can draw the sigils, how you can reverse it. Explains if you don't know how these curses start. It's just the way it is. I mean, folks, most of us are under one spell over another, and I think that's part of the awakening process of understanding. Now, always take what is sent to you and measure it yourself, because after all, it is you that eventually has to deal with it. So this is kind of like getting into a lot of things. There is another book that I came across that I think is going to be for those of us who really like to get into understanding who they are, who is the controller, what's going on here. And this is an interesting book because it kind of explains it from a point of view that I think many of us can relate to. It is said that the Western world serves the gods of plunder. And excuse me while I get. And the author of this book, Omar Zad, I love the way he brings this out. He brings this thing out that, okay, I'll just read the abstract. The author presents a fast-paced Sisyphus. His tour de force demonstrates near global surrender to the misguidance of a group mindset that magi call Igor, a thought form golem whose entire purpose favors kings of the earth. Let's just stop right there. Look at this. That's why favor is so important. That's why you need to confess it. The author brings it out right here. So Ergor, a thought form golem, whose entire purpose favors kings of the earth, and a singular consort's love of what Bystedt called legal plunder. The reader will tread on carpets of mystery religion, elitist and methodically misplaced mankind's trust in political correct dissemblers. This crimson tale leads to the Red Cross bull pins and pentagrams of red, white, and blue slaughter to include the manipulation of the Hitler mania. And it goes on talking about, it's just recently came out. You're going to love this. I won't go into it because I don't like to give the bots this, but this is why I value this author's research and what he wrote. Get this, folks. The readers will traverse seas of storms, ridden solitude as an author links Lady Liberty, mind meld, to the beast of scripture and the black sun of Isis. Indeed, blood sacrifice and incestuous virgin mothers of disposable gods are as old as Atlas's Scatere, far older than the lies Vespasian, Titus, and Josephus told that birthed Christianity. Put your seatbelts on and read the fine print, all of it. This one will blow you, and it's a short read, folks. It's not that one, but it's going to blow you away. You see, I want to bring something out. When they used to anoint kings, they anointed them with oil. This was to show several things. Number one, the oil of Gilgad. Was, Jehovah's approval. David went through it, King David, King Solomon, the other kings. The God the Western world, the United States serves, we do the same thing, except we take an oil that's contaminated, oil from the ground, from decomposing matter. And that is the anointing oil of the modern world and all the consequences that have come from that. Probably never looked at it in that way, did you? I know. There's a different way of thinking about it. But don't kid yourself. We are immersed in some of the darkest mind control that I know of. And as we continue to bring out their techniques, you're going to see how these techniques have really engaged entities that, I'll put it this way, they're not probably aliens as we've been seeing, but they're from a different realm, which makes them just as alien. But they will probably tell you and argue with you that the realm that they come from is exactly like this one with some key differences. And that puts it in a different perspective. It wouldn't be on a galactic scale as it would be in definitely the multiverse scale. Because quite frankly, I don't think we'll ever get to the other side of the galaxy of this one here, but we will through other realms. So isn't that, I'm just reading someone. So Orlenia, there is a king who had a queen who is raising a golem. This is very, and a golem, according to the Kabbalah beliefs, is what they say that the Anu, Enki made us. It's represented in the book of Genesis that there apparently we are golems. The only difference is that we had the breath of a living soul blown into us. So that's very interesting. As we know, it's said that Moshe, was a master magi, and we know, we read what the Egyptians had to say. He stole our secrets and then used them against us. And I think that that's in many of the legends, is that it is said that the Israelites had an army of golems that would go out and fight their battles to a great extent. That's representative, by the way, if you look in the Lord of the Rings, of the battles, the golems, the orcs. Those are living creatures, but they have no living soul. Boy, this has been an exciting day. I mean, talk about really coming around there. So anyway, and probably many of you have more knowledge on the golems. I know that the jinn, are very much talked about in Islamic lore. The Hindus, they've shown us in their pictographs. So I believe that you and let me say this, there is a certain angel in the Solomon magic. Listen, I don't speak their name. I just don't. It's not that I deny that they don't exist. I believe they do. It's just that they're not of the same spirit I am. But what I'm saying is, if, as a sorcerer or a sorceress, if you're very ambitious, you can, in fact, create your own golem. You just have to have the knowledge. And then you have to have the right wording. But I do believe it can be done. It's legend says that, the temple in Jerusalem, the first temple, was built by demons. Solomon, and it said that the demons were able to create golems. So, you know, who knows? That's interesting. Is that, I want to make sure, I want to say Bog Katya, is that right? The super soldiers? You know, I think if we would only open our minds and realize that governments are not so, governments deploy magic. I've told you this so many times. Our government, the Russian government, the Chinese, they all hire magicians, wizards. The Federal Reserve has done it from the very beginning. And if we can ever get out of that, because you would say, the sane mind would say, oh, Wayne, really? Well, you've got people in office who believe that there was a guy crucified on a cross by a God that they can't define. And that has governed policy. Don't tell me magic does not influence our lives. The House of Representatives, ladies and gentlemen, is a temple. It's exactly what it was designed as, and it's exactly what it is. Why do you think they have the pantheon of the gods throughout the District of Columbia? Why do you think that it's Lilith who sits on the top of the United States Capitol? Don't tell me it's Lady Liberty and it's, you know, that's Croc. If you look at who Lady Liberty really is, all roads go back to Lilith. Now, I don't know how Nancy Pelosi and the others would like to know, but you got to see the gods on the inside. Mercury is there, Jupiter is there, they're all representative. In fact, Washington in the rotunda is depicted as Zeus. Wake up, expand your mind, realize this is the controllers. It's not the nonsense going on the streets in America. That's a distraction. And if you and I will ever unite with the understanding and stop the divisions of theological, philosophical, you know, eschatological beliefs, and realize that those are all tools to use us. The gods are dead. Your God of the Bible, the Quran, the Vedic, those gods are gone. They were only temporary to begin with. There's much older gods. And obviously, they failed. And don't send me the emails. I'll just delete them. Because I know someone got PO'd about that. But folks, it's true. You know, when I did the video In God We Trust, I laid out a coherent thought and brought questions that no one answered. No one. Why is that? But I got emails that were arguing the point, but they would never, you see, that's the thing that gets me, is that if you're going to rebuke what I'm saying, then do it in the same manner. That way we can have a legitimate debate. But if you just cast generalities, we never get anywhere. One Humeric says, a golem is as loose in control as the maker's wishes. Okay. Always when you drop in the conversation, you're going, okay, I'm trying to catch up with that. But anyway, I know that the last part was very controversial, but my question is, do you think the fairies worship the crucified guy on the stick? Do you think the fairies worship Yahweh, Jehovah, Allah, Kali, Vishnu? I don't think they do. I think they probably laugh at you and say, well, maybe one day you'll wake up and begin to realize what's really going on. But we all have our own beliefs, and I am all for that. All right, folks, boy, this has been fun. Tomorrow, we're going to get in. You see, this is all about magic. And we're going to get in something I did about 2 years ago. We're going to get into the key fob. We're going to get back into that and begin to expand what we've learned in 2 years since then. Thank you, Lois. Going to have you back on, Lois. Come on, send me an email. Let me know what we can do. Nina the Mystic, I'll see you on Friday with Steve Zerloff and with Brian Lunsford. Card. And if I know Mother Goddess and there's a couple of Divine 44, you're welcome to come on. Love to have you on, because I think the cards are going to get a lot more active. I really do. And I think they're going to become even more telling. It's a conduit. All right, this has been fun. I appreciate all of y'all. I really do. Y'all are just, yesterday's show was just phenomenal. I just got to say, thank you all for allowing me to be a part of your life. It's an honor. It's a privilege. And I'm humbled. And I learned so much from all of y'all. And I just speak favor over you. And BOSTO is the answer, right? All right, folks. See you tomorrow. Speak kindly of the fairies. I'm going to be talking to my wife about actually building something for the fairies. That's how much I think. All right. Much love to you all. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.